Hi there. Right, so I think you can see what I've got going on here. I posted these a couple of days ago and I think I called it Twinpact. It's like a twin impact. It's basically, it might be a bit difficult for you to see that one at the moment. It's a print that I did for in prep for another demo that I'm going to do later on this afternoon. It didn't come out right on the, this is how it came out, excuse me, and it left that as a residual image on the gel plate. So what I did was just coated it with a mixture of different colours on the back of it and lifted it out, and yeah, it's a convenient secondary image, but it's awfully fortuitous. So what I'm going to do now is compose them back into one image in one of my Panotraits, which is sort of, I suppose it's my trademark thing. So you can watch me, hopefully this won't take too long, and you can watch me. I've done a bit of a dummy run. They seem to click together quite well, and there should be a strange continuity between the fractures that putting them back into one image, hopefully I can play up on that. But even when I do a dummy run, you can't glue them down flat, you can see, so you get an idea, but you don't get that clear an idea. Anyway, so without further ado, I'm going to get started. So this is an impact adhesive from Evo Stick. It's really strong and it stings. And you have to, yeah, it's one of these things you've got to be quick about it. I've used it once or twice in the past, and I usually use Yoo-hoo, but this is pokey stuff. This is. Right, so obviously, yeah, to begin with, I have a guide line, which is what that is. That. That's what I mean by strong. Is with Yoo-hoo, you get a little bit of leeway to play with it. Okay, so it'll be, so that is from that side. And now I take a piece from this side. You can see this is going to get confused. I don't want to get too much glue on the actual board itself until I've actually put the piece that I want to glue onto the. And I'm beginning to regret using corrugated cardboard already to do this. Okay, right, I'll turn that one over. Right, so to begin with, it's relatively easy play, but as I move through the image and recompose it all, it's important to keep the continuity of the structure. You'll see what I mean. I've done them a few times. It's a bit difficult to explain in words, but it becomes quite apparent as the images become contextualized next to each other again. So again, I swap again. Worry about getting my arm in the middle of that. Just offer it up. Make sure that we're. So yeah, the guideline. I've got a guideline at the bottom as well. It's not that strict. Obviously, it should be running. I'm more looking to where other pieces are running in parallel in height and what the continuity of the image is, rather than sticking to the guidelines. There we go. Yeah. Yeah, you can see it there. See how they run in parallel now. Make sure that jams up nice. It's the only chance that I'll get with this. So let's go. Used to doing it with watercolour paper, and it's thicker, so you can butt them up next to each other a lot easier with watercolour paper. It's not that this isn't particularly thin paper. It's got a bit of structural integrity. It's the paper that I'm using again is the Canson 200 GSM mixed media paper that I can't remember the actual brand name that they've got for it, but if you look for Canson mixed media 200 GSM, I'm sure you won't have to look very far to find it. Right, again, butt it up. Right, so the portrait's starting to take effect now, as you can see there. So this is where you have to start paying. This bit's easy, obviously. It doesn't really, there's not a lot of detail that is contextualising it, but now it'll start doing its own thing. I'll wrap it up again just to see where I'm landing. Yeah, okay. And thanks for all the follows and subscribes and comments on YouTube and Facebook, and a few on Instagram. It's yeah, it's been a good week for that. I really appreciate that. I'm going to be running a course soon in gel plate monoprinting at a local venue, I think. But there'll be more details to follow that soon. And what I haven't, nothing's been hammered out yet until I get some hard facts on the ground. I'll keep it under my hat, but there is something coming up shortly. Out in a place near, I don't know, Shrewsbury, if you want to call it that. But how long a time period it will run for and what it will fully entail, I don't quite know yet. Got to speak to the people that run it, so I'll keep you posted anyway. If you live in the locale or you fancy travelling out to it, you probably better ask for my notifications on whatever social media you're following me on. Starts building up quickly, doesn't it? Again, keeping an eye on what is going on in, or what I think is going on in the image, as opposed to meeting it all squarely on the guidelines. I'm not really a guidelines person, to be honest with you. I'll use them, but I'll quickly abandon them as well. Just a little squeeze up and there we go. Make sure that's nice and flush. Glue that a bit. There we go. Stick that back on there. Right, that was from there, so it's this one next. You can see I'm going to start. Space is going to be an issue for me in a minute. Reconfigure things. That's falling on there. I like that. That seems to be falling right. So yeah, basically I'm elongating the composition. you can feel the edge of the paper as it butts up. As long as you get a nice clean straight line when you're cutting them down, slicing and dicing them, a friend of mine said to me. Yeah, you can feel it butt into the, but even though, like I say, I'm used to doing this with watercolour paper, and it's got a lot more, it's like triple the depth of this, you can, yeah, you don't get a lot of, that is quite an advantage. Well, not an advantage, but it just plays handily into the this particular technique. I'm going to turn that over in a minute because that's sticking a lot on that surface. That to that to that. How's that look? Still. There we go. Let's have a look what the time is. Okay, so that's taken about 10 minutes. I would say I'm at least a third of the way through it, maybe even closing halfway down. Don't know about that, that's probably a bit far to stretch that. Between third and a halfway. Third and a half? Okay, I'll stop muttering to myself, let's turn that over. Quite interesting to see what these clean lines will do to the fragmentation, the organic fragmentation that happened in the printing process. But then, you know, I think it was a natural jump for me to make a lot with painting anyway, this sort of thing, because I noticed it with framing my images, that the clean exterior lines that you get from framing and mounting and presenting the images in ready to hang sort of thing, really accentuated like the purpose of the mark making within my images. So it was something I would have probably jumped all over at some point anyway. That goes like that, like that. That's, yeah, okay. These are just plastic stretcher bar. I don't know what you call them. They've probably got a very specific name that I have. I don't know what the nomenclature is for that. So, yeah, they're what you, when I'm stretching canvas, obviously you have them in the corners and they hold the stretch canvas and the stretcher bars in place. So, or they assist with that. They're just the corner. I'm sure they've got a name. I'll have to ask my framer. But they're really handy for this because they're plastic, and you can, once the glue dries, it's really easy to take that glue off of them. I was doing it with the, obviously you can get wooden versions as well, and as helpful as they were useless afterwards because they would just absorb all the adhesive and the solvent. So yeah, right, okay. So that one was on there now. So this one next. Yeah, that seems about right. Right, I'm going to have to do the gluing over to my right hand side now, I'm afraid, so you'll miss that bit, but I'm sure you're not missing that much in not watching me glue. And you'll be able to, you'll still get a clear vision of the picture as it comes together. Yeah, you need quite a bit of space to use this. Particular approach to building images. I think that's going quite nicely. Thus far, don't want to jinx it and temp fades. Okay, right, so it's this one next. Oh, okay. So usually, I'm going to be doing another one, like I say, very shortly, later on this evening, but you'll probably see that one first. You'll possibly see that one first. It'll probably get posted, is what I mean, before this one does. And I usually use more than two images to do this with, because it sort of because it says what I'm trying to say better about the portrait, or what I think this technique is sort of, or one of the things that this technique and approach is saying about portraits, which is an ever-growing sense of self that doesn't look anything like what we're used to calling standard human portrait, but you can still see the human portrait within it. And it's, you know, it's cut up into very clinical slices, a bit like a bit. Sometimes I think this technique looks a bit, especially when I use pictures with a lot of squares and lines within the actual structure of the image before I cut it up. They often look like I'm probably going to show my age here now, but they look like a hard drive defragging. The graphic that your computer used to supply you with when it was defragging, like loads of little like a graph, basically a long thin graph. And to me they look like a bit like a for me it's closer to how I see things inside of my imagination. What I mean by that is I don't really know actually. I don't have fixed concepts about things really, is what I mean by that, and there's a lot of blurring of lines, and I find the idea that we use the word photographic for a good memory quite interesting. I wonder what people said before the photograph existed. They probably said it was eidetic, which is the actual correct term, I think, but I find that interesting that I think the camera does an exceptional job of freeing up the painter and the image maker, like the handmade image maker, because it sort of takes the hand, or it did do, it's coming back into it now obviously with editing equipment, but it took the hand out of the image making process. That's what photon, light, graph, to draw. Photograph, the word photograph means to draw with light. And so it took the hand. This is something Hockney spent a lot of time researching and a lot of his own money. And he makes a very interesting point, and I think I'll probably reiterate, just in case you've not heard me say these things before, I'm going to say them now. Yeah, that it's if you I don't know about anybody else, but if I think about how my memory works in terms of how my image processing works, I don't really see one specific image. If you were to think of a geographical location and start to recount to yourself the visual stimuli of like recounting that geographical location, you don't have it all appear at once like a camera, and you don't. No, but I can't see how anybody does, to be honest with you. You get arbitrary pieces of, I certainly do, pieces of information that gradually the image builds up more and more and more in your no matter whether it's error strewn or erroneous, or like it doesn't, for me the image doesn't occur at once. It's built up, and it takes a little bit of time to build up, and it's almost like it's built out of multiple images and multiple frames, and one of the things that Hockney says about what he says about high definition image making and production is that surely the point of making high definition images is not to just expand upon what one frame shows you. It's to get a multiplex or a multiplicity of frames within the image, because what you actually do within a frame, no matter how big that frame is, you know, if you're like at a U2 concert and just looking at one huge high def image of, all you've done is, all that's happened there is in the fundamental sense is that you have stretched time over that frame, because you're using one lens and one frame, and so you're caught within the tricks of perspective. And something very strange happens to perspective with these images as well. It was completely unintentional, but that's an aside. The frame can be expanded upon if you and there's a lot more to be reaped from it. Hockney's done experiments into this, and you probably get a closer representation to what the mind's eye actually looks like. Not what the camera's eye. The camera's a fantastic piece of equipment. I'm not trying to denigrate the camera. I love cameras, they're brilliant. But it's not how my mind's eye works. It's nothing like how my mind's eye works. But maybe I'm a lightning nut one. I don't think I am, to be. You know, if people like Hockney are saying it too, I think this is what Cézanne and Picasso and Braque and people who follow the discipline of cubism, and they were onto it. There's an anxiety that's you can't escape in binocular vision, because you are only looking at one thing, yet you're getting two slightly different independent resources of that one thing, because of the nature of the light and how it's entering into your, well, the optical nerves, really. So yeah, this is how people actually look to me inside my head. You all look like it. Politicians, TV presenters, friends, family. Getting there now. Quite pleased with myself for all that jabbering away to myself. I haven't messed up the continuity of it yet, which is astounding for me. I'm only getting caught up in what I'm saying. Still plenty of time to do that. gel plate doing this. This is so flat. I mean, obviously it's picking up a bit there with I'll glue that back in a minute. It's going to be, it's quite an experimental piece to do this with anyway, so you're going to get bits and pieces like that. That's okay, I can glue that back in, it's not a big problem. It was just crying out for me to do this to it. I think it was Lucinda, who I've spoken to a bit on Facebook. She was onto it as well. She asked me if I was going to do the Panotrait thing to the two individual images that have created what is becoming this one image now. Nearly that. What are we doing time wise here, Lorraine? Right. I doubt that I'm going to get this done inside my half-hour remit, so I'm going to warn you now, this is probably going to go into a second part of what it's obviously not going to be very long at all. But just so I can, yeah, thanks a lot for all the likes and the follows and the comments. Always sparks ideas and things, and yeah, I really appreciate that. Hopefully I can keep you equally entertained with other ideas over the coming weeks. I've got a few things planned. I know how I can work into some bigger projects, and I think what I'm going to do at some point, although the gel plate plays an enormous part in what I do want to, I know other people are looking at my work for reasons other than gel plate tutorials, so, and are these tutorials? I don't know, it's just me working. Usually with the tutorials, there's teachers standing in the front of the room telling you what to do. I realise that's a bit of a non sequitur and a non-starter with art. You can't really. It's a difficult one to teach, to say the least. So now I'll go back in and I'll probably start, within reason I'll use the guidelines a little bit here that I put in just at the bottom now, and there's obviously not a lot I can do about the one over on that side. That was just to get things started up. Last two pieces. So yeah, this is about to go into a second part. If you want to go over to the second part, or if not, if you could give us a subscribe if you're watching me on YouTube, or a like on Facebook or Instagram, that'd be very welcome and appreciated. And there'll be a little bit of extra information in the second part as well, that I'm not going to go on about here. You just have to go and have a look. Okay, but thanks a lot for watching. Very close to being finished anyway, but yeah, I'm gonna, like I say, I've got an extra bit of information to I think it's at the end of it now anyway, so I'll